Episode 5: The Purple People Eater. Alcatraz Island, Alien Breeding Grounds. Flesh-Eating Aliens. Chapter 1. Island Infestation. San Francisco, with its gleaming bridges and bustling bay, had long stood as an emblem of American ingenuity and prosperity. But now, an ominous shadow loomed over the iconic cityscape. Alcatraz Island, previously a site of historical significance, had become ground zero for an impending nightmare. Morning traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge flowed as usual. Commuters navigated their way, unaware that danger lurked beneath. An impatient horn blared, echoing into the thickening fog that the Bay Area was renowned for. Drivers paused, noticing something eerie, an odd phosphorescent glow emanating from the waters below. As they stared, transfixed by the glow, a massive tentacle-like appendage burst from the water, crashing onto the bridge and dragging a car into the abyss below. Panic ensued as more tentacles emerged, yanking car after car off the bridge. People abandoned their vehicles, running, screaming, their faces etched with pure terror. The morning sun, obscured by the dense fog, offered no warmth or reassurance. Amidst the chaos, a lone motorcycle weaved its way deftly between the stranded vehicles. Its rider was none other than Murray, the alien hunter who had faced and defeated these monstrous entities in multiple cities. His experience in Jacksonville, Seattle, Boston, and Houston had steeled him for moments like this. Murray parked at a safe distance and surveyed the scene. The Golden Gate was now an arena of horror. He pulled out his communication device and rapidly keyed in a code, connecting with Dr. Lena. "We've got a major infestation," he reported grimly. "Already ahead of you," came Dr. Lena's voice, strained. "Reports are pouring in. It's not just the bridge. The harbor is lighting up like a Christmas tree every night. Whatever these creatures are doing on Alcatraz, it's amplifying their capabilities." Before Murray could respond, a voice interrupted. "You're Murray, aren't you?" Turning, he was met by the intense gaze of a woman in her early 40s, her gray-streaked hair pulled back into a tight bun. She introduced herself as Cassandra, a historian with an expertise in Alcatraz. "I've been monitoring the island for a while," Cassandra said. "There are legends, ancient stories tied to the land that speak of dark forces and guardians. I think we're seeing those legends come to life." Murray, always skeptical of folklore, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Cassandra continued, "I believe there's a way to use the island's history against these creatures. But first, we must understand what's happening on Alcatraz." As Murray and Cassandra talked, reports flooded in. The creatures were indeed using Alcatraz's abandoned prison structures as breeding grounds. With each passing hour, their numbers grew, intensifying the threat. Back at a makeshift command center, Murray and Cassandra met with military officials who were contemplating a drastic step. "We bomb the island," declared General Baxter, his tone brooking no argument. "It's the only way." Murray frowned. "And obliterate a piece of history?" "There has to be another way." A technician interrupted, handing Murray a transmission device. "Sir, there's a group of survivors on Alcatraz. They say there's a way to destroy the breeding grounds without resorting to bombing." The room grew silent as everyone digested this news. Murray's eyes met Cassandra's. They both knew the stakes were higher than ever. The chapter closed with Murray gearing up, ready to lead a team to Alcatraz. His mind raced with the challenges ahead, not just from the creatures, but from potential traps far more advanced than anything he'd encountered before. The fight for San Francisco had just begun. Chapter 2. Echoes of the past. The sun dipped behind a canvas of heavy, somber clouds. San Francisco's skyline was a silhouette against the twilight's eerie orange-red hue. People on the street, usually busy with their own lives, now stood still, staring anxiously at the looming Alcatraz Island. In a dimly lit room inside a small, untouched townhouse not far from the harbor, Cassandra was setting up a projector. The walls soon bathed in black and white photographs, the echoes of Alcatraz's tumultuous past. Murray, arms folded, observed closely, eager yet skeptical. "This island, Murray," Cassandra began, her voice smooth and steady despite the urgent circumstances, is not just a prison. It was built upon legends, stories passed down from generation to generation. An image appeared, showing native tribes gathered around fires, their faces illuminated by dancing flames. Native tribes believed it was a place of evil spirits, a place where darkness thrived. The slide changed, showing the early construction of the prison. But humans, Cassandra continued, in our eternal hubris, thought we could control the power of the island. We built a prison, thinking we could cage the darkness. But we merely suppressed it. Murray's face was impassive, but his racing mind betrayed his calm exterior. What are you saying, Cassandra? That these creatures are drawn to Alcatraz because of ancient legends. Cassandra hesitated for a moment. Not exactly. I believe that whatever energy the island emanates, it's now acting like a beacon for these creatures. And if there's any truth to these legends, there might be a way to turn that energy against them. Before Murray could probe further, Dr. Lena burst into the room, her face flushed with a mix of excitement and fear. I've made a breakthrough, she declared, holding up a recorder. These creatures, they communicate using a series of clicks and whistles, not unlike dolphins. But the patterns, they're more intricate. There's intelligence here, Murray. And more worryingly, hierarchy. You're saying they have a leader, Murray concluded, recalling the prior encounters in other cities. Each had been progressively harder, the creatures seemingly learning from their past mistakes. Yes, and I believe this leader is on Alcatraz, Dr. Lena added. The room grew silent, the weight of the revelation hanging heavily. Just then, the silence was shattered by the sound of a static-laden radio transmission. Hello? Is anyone out there? We're trapped on Alcatraz. The creatures, they have some kind of nest. But there's also something else here. Something that scares them. Murray sprang into action, grabbing the radio. This is Murray. Who is this? A shaky voice responded, Name's Tom. We're a group of survivors. We came here for refuge, thinking the island was safe. We were wrong. But while hiding, we found ancient inscriptions. There might be a way to combat these things. But we need help. Cassandra looked at Murray, her face reflecting the urgency of the moment. We need to get to Alcatraz, she asserted. Murray nodded. First light tomorrow. We head to the island. The plan was set. They would use the cover of dawn, the one time of day when the creatures seemed least active, to approach Alcatraz. The fate of San Francisco, and possibly the world, rested on their shoulders. Outside, as the trio discussed plans for the upcoming mission, the harbor waters shimmered with an eerie glow. The city was on edge, but hope was not lost. With a melding of modern science and ancient knowledge, humanity was preparing to strike back. The chapter further delves into the history of Alcatraz, intertwining the modern alien threat with ancient legends. With the introduction of survivors on the island, the plot thickens, promising an epic confrontation in subsequent chapters. The mixture of suspense, horror, and mystery keeps readers on the edge, eager to dive into the next chapter. Chapter 3. Bridge battles. The Bay Bridge was usually a spectacle, adorned with twinkling lights and carrying the lifeblood of the city across its veins. But that evening, it was a landscape of chaos and terror. Searchlights swept over its length, revealing patches of the bridge overrun by alien creatures, their grotesque forms casting menacing shadows against the concrete and steel. Their amphibious bodies glistened in the artificial light, moving in swift, calculated patterns. Captain Rodriguez, leading the military operation, barked orders into his radio, coordinating units across the vast span of the bridge. He'd faced these creatures in Houston, but this was different. They were more coordinated, more aggressive. All units, hold your positions. Do not let them push forward. But the aliens were relentless. As bullets sprayed, taking down some of the invaders, more would emerge, seemingly unfazed by the losses. They leapt over barriers, ambushing soldiers, their jaws snapping shut with a gut-wrenching force. From his vantage point on a military Humvee, Murray watched in horror. The initial plan was to reclaim the bridge, but it was quickly becoming a battle for survival. Beside him, Dr. Lena was fidgeting with her equipment, trying to find a frequency that might disrupt the creature's communication. "It's not working," she muttered, frustration evident in her voice. Their leader on Alcatraz is somehow enhancing their coordination. Just then, a spine-chilling shriek echoed over the tumult, freezing both human and alien in place. From the far end of the bridge, a new creature emerged. Larger than its counterparts, its body was covered in thicker, spiked armor, its eyes glowing a deeper shade of crimson. It was a variant, something they hadn't seen before. Rodriguez grabbed his radio. "Fall back. All units, retreat." But the order came too late for many. The creature charged, barreling through both military vehicles and personnel, its armored hide deflecting bullets as if they were mere irritants. Soldiers were sent flying, vehicles overturned, and in mere moments, a significant portion of the bridge was lost. Murray, Dr. Lena, and a few others managed to regroup at a makeshift barricade. "We need to retreat, plan a new strategy," Murray said, his voice firm despite the chaos. As the team pulled back, Cassandra, who'd been observing from a distance, approached them. "This isn't just about combat strategy," she said urgently. "We're dealing with a force that's in tune with Alcatraz's energy. We have to leverage the island's ancient power." Rodriguez, overhearing the conversation, chimed in, "We don't have time for legends and myths, ma'am. We need firepower." Dr. Lena, catching her breath, interjected, "We might not have much of choice. We can't outgun them, but perhaps we can outthink them." She pointed to the glowing waters around the harbor. "That glow, it's a form of communication, a beacon. We need to understand it, turn it off, or even reverse it." As they strategized, the creatures on the bridge seemed to stall, not pushing forward as aggressively. It was as if they were waiting, biding their time for something. "We need to act quickly," Murray said. "Every moment we delay, they grow stronger. We regroup, gather our forces, and approach this from two fronts: military strength and understanding the island's mysteries." Cassandra nodded. "I'll gather what I know, and with Dr. Lena, we can devise a way to counteract their advantage." Rodriguez, still skeptical but seeing no other option, agreed. "All right, but we do this together. One unified front." The remnants of the military forces began to regroup, treating the injured and formulating a new plan. As the night deepened, San Francisco's iconic bridge stood partially occupied by an alien force, a stark reminder of the battle ahead. But hope wasn't lost. With a combination of ancient knowledge and modern determination, the defenders of humanity prepared to wage a war unlike any before. The stakes were immense, but so was their resolve. The battle for San Francisco had just begun. Chapter 4. Luminous waters. The eerie luminescence of the harbor waters had become an enigma that both fascinated and terrified San Francisco's populace. A nighttime walk by the waterfront, once a tranquil experience, was now a haunting spectacle. The soft blue glow that undulated under the surface seemed ethereal, but the locals knew better. This beauty masked a monstrous reality. Murray, Dr. Lena, and Cassandra met on a research boat that bobbed gently on the glowing waves. The light from below cast strange reflections onto the vessel, making it feel as though they were sailing through a dream. Murray crouched at the edge, dipping a container into the water to collect a sample. Dr. Lena's initial analyses had been inconclusive. The glow didn't correspond to any known bioluminescent organisms. "This isn't just some mutated plankton," she remarked, peering into her microscope. "There's an energy here that I can't quite place." Cassandra, ever the historian, added, "Many ancient cultures spoke of waters that glowed, waters that were said to be gateways to other realms. But this feels different, more sinister." The research was interrupted by a sudden, bone-chilling scream echoing across the water. They looked up to see a man on a nearby boat, his hand in the water, his skin lighting up in sync with the eerie glow. Within seconds, he collapsed, his body rigid, eyes blank. The luminous waters had claimed another victim. The revelation was immediate and horrifying. The waters weren't just a signal or a side effect. They were a weapon. Dr. Lena, her face pale, whispered, "It's a neural disruptor. This glow, whatever it is, it's designed to incapacitate any living thing that comes into contact." As Murray pulled the lifeless man on board, he gritted his teeth. This isn't just about breeding anymore. They're terraforming, changing our environment to suit them, to ward us off. The implications were vast. If the waters were lethal, what would happen when they spread? Would San Francisco's coastline become a deadly trap? The distress among the population was palpable. Coastal homes were abandoned as families fled inland, fearing the encroaching menace. The military, already stretched thin defending the bridges, was now tasked with aiding the evacuation. But chaos was brewing. San Francisco, the gleaming city by the bay, was descending into darkness and panic. In a makeshift lab set up inland, Dr. Lena worked tirelessly. The environmental impact, she feared, was irreversible. "The marine ecosystem is collapsing," she reported. "Fish, plankton, everything's being affected. And if this spreads..." Cassandra interrupted, "It's not just about the environment. Think of the history, the culture we'd be losing. The stories that the sea holds, they'd all be gone." Amidst this bleak scenario, a glimmer of hope emerged. A message was intercepted, not from the aliens on Alcatraz, but from the other faction, the potential allies. It was fragmented but clear on one point: luminance, not weapon, gateway. Murray pondered the message. If this isn't just a weapon, what are they trying to bring through this gateway? As they grappled with this question, the glow intensified, casting an even more surreal aura across the city. Reports began pouring in of shadowy figures seen below the surface, larger and more menacing than the amphibious predators they'd encountered. San Francisco stood at the precipice of a greater invasion, a new phase in this extraterrestrial assault. The luminous waters, beautiful yet deadly, held secrets that could determine the fate of the city and perhaps the world. With every passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The alliance of Murray, Dr. Lena, and Cassandra, representing a blend of action, science, and history, would need to unlock the mysteries of the glowing waters and find a way to turn the tide in humanity's favor. Chapter 5. Secrets beneath the surface. The silent, eerie waters surrounding Alcatraz Island were a thick curtain of mysteries, hiding the unknown horrors that lurked below. The shimmering glow was deceptive. One could easily mistake it for the splendor of bioluminescent algae if not for the dreadful knowledge of its origin. The military's divers had been consistently unsuccessful, their dives leading to tragic losses. Murray, with a determined glint in his eyes, decided to lead a team himself. Armed with specialized underwater equipment, he, Cassandra, Dr. Lena, and a squad of Navy SEALs prepared to dive into the depths. The world below was breathtaking, a dazzling dance of lights and shadows, an underwater aurora. But soon, the magnificent vista was overshadowed by the sight of alien machinery. Vast structures, pulsing with the same glow, stood anchored to the ocean floor. Tubular appendages branched out like the roots of a dark tree, snaking their way towards the island. Dr. Lena, communicating via the team's waterproof radio sets, murmured, "It's a network, a web of sorts, possibly powering or feeding their breeding facilities." The alien architecture was eerily organic, a blend of biology and machinery, resembling something out of a nightmarish dream. As the team moved cautiously, the silence was pierced by a sonorous hum. From a distance, a colossal silhouette appeared. The alien leader. Distinguished from the others, this creature was larger, its bioluminescent patterns more intricate. It was surrounded by a cohort of its kind, all moving in synchrony, emitting patterns of light in a rhythmical dance. This was their communication. Murray gestured to retreat, but just as they were about to, Dr. Lena's eye caught an unusual device. Hovering neutrally buoyant in the water, it pulsed rhythmically with the same patterns the leader emitted. "We need that," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. One of the SEALs, Specialist Ramirez, an expert in alien tech retrieval since the Jacksonville incident, nodded and approached the device with stealthy precision. Just as he grabbed it, an alien turned its gaze toward him, its body lighting up with aggressive patterns. A chase ensued. Ramirez, clutching the device, swam with agility, dodging the twisting appendages of the pursuing aliens. The team fired their specially designed underwater weapons, creating diversions. Cassandra, her historian instincts kicking in, remembered an ancient shipwreck nearby. There, she pointed. The team swam into the skeletal remains of an old ship, hiding amidst its shadows. The aliens, confused, circled the wreckage, their lights flickering with frustration. After what felt like hours, the creatures departed, leaving the team to catch their breaths amidst the time-worn ruins of human maritime history. They ascended to their boat, the alien device in tow. It was intricate, covered in bioluminescent patterns, and had multiple facets resembling a multifaceted gem, but one that pulsed with life and energy. This, Dr. Lena said, examining it, could be our Rosetta Stone, a way to understand them, maybe even communicate. Murray gazed at Alcatraz, the imposing rock standing defiantly in the distance. We've got a piece of their world now. Let's use it. The dive had been a terrifying plunge into the unknown, a dance on the knife edge of peril. But it had given them hope. The team had touched the alien world beneath the waves, faced the leader of an otherworldly menace, and emerged with a potential key to understanding their enemy. The waters of San Francisco Bay held their secrets no more, but the war was far from over. The glow from below, a constant reminder of the threat, was also now a beacon of hope. A hope that humanity, with its resilience and ingenuity, would find a way to reclaim its world. Chapter 6. Reaching out. The makeshift lab set up in an underground bunker was a frenzy of activity. Military personnel, scientists, and engineers moved with a purpose, but at the center of it all was Dr. Lena, examining the alien device with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Murray stood beside her. Any progress? Lena looked up, a hint of weariness in her eyes. It's fascinating. The device functions on a frequency unlike anything we've ever seen. And yet, there's a certain symmetry to its patterns. The bunker's atmosphere was thick with anticipation. A breakthrough here could change the course of this intergalactic war. As hours turned into days, Lena finally announced, I believe I've decoded a basic communication protocol. She held up the device, its multifaceted surface pulsing with muted colors. Using a modified interface, she began to transmit a series of patterns. The room went silent, everyone holding their breath, waiting. Suddenly, the device emitted a sharp, crystal-clear tone. A visual projection appeared, displaying alien figures. They were different from the predators, more ethereal, their bodies shimmering with cascades of light. Cassandra whispered, they look peaceful. One of the aliens began to speak, its patterns interpreted by Lena's interface, producing a voice both melodic and otherworldly. Who summons the Archelians? Lena cleared her throat. I am Dr. Lena. We are humans of Earth. We are under attack by creatures we believe you're familiar with. There was a pause. The Archelian replied, yes, the Zoroks. Our ancient adversaries. But why have they chosen Earth? Murray stepped forward. They're using our island of Alcatraz as a breeding ground, increasing their numbers. We need to stop them. The Archelian shimmered. The Zoroks are but foot soldiers in a larger galactic battle. Their invasion of Earth is no accident. The room echoed with murmurs of disbelief and apprehension. Dr. Lena asked, what is this larger battle you speak of? The alien hesitated. There's an imbalance in the cosmos. The Zoroks, under the command of a dark entity, seek to control and consume worlds. They have laid waste to countless planets, including some of our colonies. Cassandra, her historian senses tingling, questioned, why Earth? What's so special about our planet? The Archelian responded, every world has its essence, a unique cosmic energy. Earth's is potent, giving life to a diverse ecosystem. The Zoroks crave this energy. Silence blanketed the room, broken only by the hum of the machinery. Lena's voice trembled. How do we stop them? The Archelian's glow dimmed. The Zoroks can be defeated, but it won't be easy. Your best chance is to destroy their breeding grounds and disrupt their energy absorption. But be warned. The entity commanding them is unlike anything you've encountered. A soldier interjected, we were considering bombing Alcatraz. The Archelian's patterns turned frantic. No. That would release the energy they've stored, causing catastrophic consequences. Murray, determination clear in his eyes, said, then we need another way. Can you help us? The alien hesitated. We can provide knowledge, perhaps even some technology, but our direct interference would escalate the conflict, drawing even darker forces to your world. Murray nodded. We'll take any help we can get. The Archelian concluded, prepare yourselves. The Zoroks are but the beginning. Greater challenges await. Protect your essence, Earthlings. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Dr. Lena, visibly shaken, whispered, we're not just fighting for our planet, but for our place in the cosmos. Murray, ever the leader, rallied the group. We now know what we're up against. The stakes are higher, but our resolve is unbreakable. Let's get to work. The chapter closed with a weighty revelation of Earth's significance in a vast, interconnected universe. The impending battle would not just be for survival, but for the very essence that made Earth unique. In the backdrop of a city under siege, humanity's defenders were gearing up, armed with newfound knowledge and a glimmer of hope. But the looming shadows of the Zoroks and their dark master threatened to engulf them in a night that might never see dawn. Chapter 7. The Alcatraz assault. Murray stood at the helm of the ship, the cold wind from the Pacific biting into his skin. Before him, the looming silhouette of Alcatraz stood shrouded in darkness, the eerie glow from the waters playing tricks with the shadows. Cassandra approached, clutching a worn-out book, the pages yellowed with age. This, she began, contains blueprints of Alcatraz. I believe there might be passages unknown to most. Murray nodded, studying the maps. We need every advantage we can get. Suddenly, the ship jolted. Dark, serpentine shapes swirled beneath the water's surface, their grotesque forms illuminated by the mysterious glow. It's them. Someone shouted. All hands were on deck. Soldiers armed with specialized weapons took aim. Harpoons laced with a toxin developed by Dr. Lena pierced the waters, sending the creatures into agonizing convulsions. The skirmish was a stark reminder. The journey to the island was just as perilous as the mission on it. After what felt like hours, the ship docked stealthily on the eastern shore. Murray led the charge, his team close behind. Each step they took echoed with the island's haunting history and the unknown terror that awaited. Inside, the prison was a labyrinth of dilapidated cells and corridors, but this was no ordinary ruin. The walls pulsed with a sickly bioluminescence, revealing masses of eggs. The breeding ground was real. Keep close, Murray whispered, his voice barely audible above the chorus of alien sounds. Chitters, clicks, and ungodly shrieks echoed in the distance. They were not alone. Out of the shadows, creatures lunged. These were different, more grotesque, their bodies mutated by rapid breeding. The ambush was relentless. Every corner they turned, another wave attacked. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, followed by a familiar voice. This way. It was Captain Rodriguez, one of the rumored survivors. Behind him, a band of ragged island inhabitants brandished makeshift weapons. We've been holding them off from the inside, Rodriguez explained, his voice raspy. But there's something else. Something worse in the heart of the prison. The combined group pressed onward, the weight of their task growing with every step. They arrived at the prison's central chamber. The sight was stomach-churning. At the center, a monstrous creature, seemingly a leader or queen, sat atop a grotesque throne of flesh and eggs. It screeched, sending waves of smaller creatures to attack. The battle was fierce. Murray's team unleashed their arsenal, cutting down swaths of the creatures. Dr. Lena's toxin proved effective, causing the aliens to convulse and collapse. But the Queen was another challenge. Bullets and toxins seemed to only enrage it further. In the midst of the chaos, Cassandra remembered a snippet from her studies. The old sewer systems. She shouted over the din. They connect to the bay. If we can lure it there, the tide could wash it away. Murray, locking eyes with the monstrous Queen, understood. Rodriguez, get everyone to safety. Lena, prepare more toxin. What ensued was a deadly game of cat and mouse. Murray, with the Queen hot on his heels, navigated the bowels of the prison. The maze-like sewers seemed endless, but finally, the roar of the bay's waters echoed nearby. With one final stand, Murray injected a massive dose of Lena's toxin into a piece of meat, tossing it towards the Queen. It took the bait, its massive form convulsing as it neared the sewer's edge. With one final screech, the tide claimed it, pulling it into the bay's depths. The team regrouped, weary but victorious. The survivors shared tales of their weeks of terror, living off scraps and constantly evading capture. As dawn broke, the horrors of the night seemed almost surreal. But the scars, both physical and emotional, would remain. Alcatraz had awakened to a new chapter in its dark history. Yet amid the devastation, a spark of hope ignited. Humanity, when united, could stand against the star's most terrifying creatures. But the battle was far from over, and Murray knew that greater challenges awaited. The cosmos was vast, and Earth was but a speck in its grand tapestry. He gazed at the horizon, the sun's first rays breaking the night. The war for Earth's essence had just begun. Chapter 8. Allies and enemies. Murray gazed upon the ragtag group of Alcatraz survivors, their faces etched with tales of terror and defiance. These were the resilient souls who had endured weeks trapped with monstrous adversaries. "We need to act fast," Captain Rodriguez said, stepping forward. He was a burly man, with a rugged beard that hadn't seen a razor since the invasion. "They know we're here, and they're coming for us." Dr. Lena approached, holding a makeshift communicator device. "We've been working on this. It jams their communication, but it's short range." "That will buy us some time," Murray remarked. "But we need a way to eliminate the threat for good." The room buzzed with strategy talk when a woman, her face hidden in shadows, interrupted them. "The key is not just in your weapons. It's in the island's history." It was Cassandra. Murray nodded, remembering their earlier conversation. "The ancient secrets you spoke of?" Cassandra carefully unraveled an old, dusty scroll. The paper, delicate to the touch, depicted a diagram of Alcatraz and its underground passages. At its core, there was a symbol, a geometric pattern surrounded by indecipherable inscriptions. "We've been so focused on the horrors above ground, we've ignored the potential weapons beneath," she whispered. "Ancient traps and defense mechanisms, created by native tribes and forgotten by time. We need to activate them," Murray decided. But as plans were set into motion, there was a growing sense of unease. Whispers and furtive glances permeated the group. Murray felt it. There was a traitor among them. His fears were confirmed when, under the dim light of lanterns, a scuffle broke out. A figure darted towards the exit, clutching the scroll. "Stop him!" Murray shouted. But it was too late. The double agent had disappeared into the night, leaving chaos in his wake. "We need to get that scroll back," Rodriguez growled, fury evident in his eyes. "It's our only chance." Dividing into teams, they began their pursuit, navigating the dark, twisted corridors of the forsaken prison. Every echo, every rustle of the wind sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a harrowing scream pierced the silence. Following the sound, Murray and his team entered a vast chamber where they were met with a sight of pure horror: the alien leader. Towering and grotesque, with tentacles dripping a vile liquid, it held the double agent in its grasp, the scroll laying torn at its feet. The creature hissed, its eyes fixating on Murray. Words, garbled and chilling, emanated from it. Though they couldn't understand the exact phrasing, the intent was clear, a threat, a warning. With bravery born of desperation, Murray stepped forward, ready to face the monstrosity. But before he could act, a rhythmic chanting filled the chamber. Cassandra, with a group of survivors, was forming a circle, chanting words from the ancient inscriptions. As the chanting intensified, the very ground beneath them began to rumble. The geometric symbol from the scroll, now glowing a brilliant blue, emerged from the floor. The island's ancient defense mechanisms were activating. With a cacophony of sounds, creaks, groans, and the roars of hidden machinery, trapdoors opened, releasing torrents of water. Streams of electricity coursed through the water, aimed directly at the alien leader. Caught off guard, the creature shrieked in agony, releasing the double agent. The chamber was a tempest of water and electricity, the walls shaking from the force. And then, just as suddenly as it began, there was silence. The alien leader lay motionless, defeated by the very island it sought to conquer. Murray and the others, drenched and exhausted, regrouped. The traitor, disoriented and weakened, was apprehended. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. As dawn broke over San Francisco, casting Alcatraz in a golden hue, the survivors knew their fight was just beginning. The ancient defenses had given them hope, but the presence of a traitor among them was a stark reminder. In this new, terrifying world, trust was a luxury few could afford. And as they prepared for the challenges ahead, one thing was certain: the fight for Earth, their home, would demand sacrifices and alliances in measures they couldn't yet fathom. Chapter 9. Destruction and despair. The first rays of dawn illuminated the ruins of Alcatraz, casting a golden hue over the remnants of an island that had once been a symbol of inescapability. Now, it was the very heart of a terrifying war. Murray's team, armed with knowledge, courage, and the fragile alliance with the island survivors, was the last line of defense against an alien race hell-bent on making Earth their breeding ground. The breeding facility, a grotesque perversion of the prison's cell blocks, buzzed with the sounds of alien activity. Every corner, every corridor, was a potential death trap. The rhythmic pulsation emitting from the facility hinted at the horrors within. Countless eggs, each poised to unleash another monstrosity upon the world. Time was of the essence. Murray signaled to Dr. Lena and her team, who had fashioned a device intended to disrupt the aliens' reproductive cycle. But deploying it was no easy feat. The aliens, sensing the imminent threat, were on high alert. "Stay sharp and stick together." Murray's voice was firm, yet carried the weight of a man who had seen cities fall. A deafening screech resonated as they made their way deeper into the breeding facility. From the dark recesses, a swarm of aliens lunged forward. The team retaliated, firing their specially designed weapons, emitting a frequency that incapacitated the creatures temporarily. But for every alien they subdued, two more emerged. As they pushed on, Murray caught a movement in his peripheral vision. An alien, larger and more menacing than the others, bore down on them. Before he could react, it lunged, knocking Rodriguez to the ground, its razor-sharp talons inches away from his face. With no time to aim, Murray lunged, driving a knife into the creature's side. It hissed, recoiling in pain, giving Rodriguez the chance to scramble away. The battle raged on. Explosions, shrieks, and the sounds of fierce combat echoed through the facility. Murray's team was dwindling. Cassandra, who had been leading a group to activate another ancient defense mechanism, screamed as a tentacle ensnared her, pulling her into the darkness. As the hours wore on, despair crept in. The losses were mounting. Friends and comrades fell one by one, leaving gaps that could never be filled. And still, the heart of the breeding facility remained untouched. Outside, the situation was equally dire. The city's defenses were stretched thin. Murray's operation was San Francisco's last hope. But then, from the deepest corridors of despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. Dr. Lena, risking everything, ran towards the heart of the facility, device in hand. Murray, realizing her intentions, shouted for everyone to retreat. A blinding light. An ear-splitting sound. The ground shook with an intensity that threatened to tear Alcatraz apart. When the dust settled, the breeding facility was no more. Its twisted corridors and chambers, once filled with the promise of a new alien generation, lay in ruins. Dr. Lena's device had worked, but at a devastating cost. Murray, battered and bruised, searched frantically for any sign of survivors. Here and there, he found some, including a severely injured Rodriguez and a few others. But Dr. Lena was nowhere to be found. As the remnants of the team gathered, a collective grief enveloped them. They had achieved a Pyrrhic victory. Alcatraz, the once formidable prison island, lay heavily damaged, its historic walls bearing witness to the horrors of the battle. The waters around the island, once teeming with alien activity, now lay silent. The eerie glow that had once emanated from the harbor had vanished, replaced by the gentle waves reflecting the morning sun. The world would remember this day, not as a day of triumph, but as a reminder of the sacrifices made in the face of an unimaginable threat. And Murray, clutching Dr. Lena's broken device, silently vowed to honor the memories of those they had lost, ensuring their sacrifices were not in vain. The battle for Alcatraz was over, but the war for Earth had just begun. Chapter 10. Chicago. Calling the early hours of dawn found Murray gazing at the smoldering ruins of Alcatraz. A man tormented by losses, but still breathing, still fighting. Though San Francisco had been saved from total devastation, the cost weighed heavily on his mind. News from the mainland jolted Murray from his contemplation. Chicago, the windy city with its famed skyline and majestic Lake Michigan, was under siege. The mysterious and deadly creatures had intensified their grip, making it the new epicenter of their invasion. The report was clear and chilling. Sightings of the aliens had grown more frequent around Chicago's Navy Pier, its famed Millennium Park, and even along the Magnificent Mile. Eyewitnesses spoke of tentacled monstrosities emerging from the water and attacking the unsuspecting, of bodies dragged beneath the waves, never to resurface. Worse still, reports suggested that these creatures were evolving. Stella, a marine biologist stationed in Chicago, shared harrowing footage with Murray. In it, creatures, similar to those they'd encountered before but undeniably more advanced, ambushed a naval patrol boat. Their strategies were smarter, their movements synchronized, and their assaults deadly precise. These weren't the erratic attacks of beasts. They bore the hallmarks of a species with understanding, with purpose. Murray's chest tightened. The thought of facing an even more formidable foe was daunting. But in his heart, he knew retreat wasn't an option. The fragments of his team that remained were battered but resolute. The terrors of Alcatraz had forged bonds of trust and dependence. But Chicago posed a new challenge, and their numbers were dwindling. Late one evening, as Murray pored over reconnaissance reports, a call came through. The raspy voice on the other end made him stiffen. "Murray?" It whispered, filled with static and a chilling hint of familiarity. "Who is this?" he demanded, every muscle tensing. "Chicago's waters are deeper, colder. Perfect for us," the voice hissed, a tone almost mocking. The line went dead, leaving Murray grappling with icy dread. It was a voice he'd heard before, from the depths of Boston's Charles River. Could it be the alien leader that Dr. Lena had spoken of? Or was it something even more sinister? The message was clear. Chicago wasn't just another battleground, it was a trap. Murray's mind raced. He needed allies. The creature's newfound intelligence and evolutionary leap meant he couldn't rely solely on military might. He remembered Cassandra's theories about ancient secrets and defenses. Was there something similar in Chicago? His determination hardened. There was no going back. Every city, every battleground brought them closer to understanding the enemy, finding their weaknesses. Chicago was the next step in this deadly dance, and Murray would lead the charge. Gathering his team, he outlined the news from Chicago and the chilling call he'd received. Fear flickered in their eyes, but so did determination. The horrors of Jacksonville, Seattle, Boston, Houston, and now San Francisco had made one thing clear: surrendering wasn't an option. As preparations ramped up, Murray's thoughts turned to Lake Michigan. Those vast, deep waters held mysteries of their own. Would they find allies there, or enemies even deadlier than before? With the rising sun, Murray and his team set out, bound for Chicago. The Windy City's iconic skyline beckoned in the distance, but beneath its waters, in the shadowed depths of Lake Michigan, unknown horrors awaited. And as the city's silhouette grew larger on the horizon, Murray couldn't shake the chilling voice from the call. The waters of Chicago were indeed deeper and colder, and what lurked beneath was yet to be revealed. We hope you have enjoyed our storytelling offering tonight. Please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to be alerted of future weekly additions to our collections. Paranormal Untold Stories.